Joined by the former CM of Uttarakhand, Mr. Harish Rawat. Mr. Rawat, thank you so much for speaking to CNN News 18. We want your opinion on the committee that's now been formed on One Nation, One Poll. They're going to be exploring the possibility. What would you have to say to that?
In fact, government cannot throw a surprise over on nation. And secondly, ये ऐसा लगता है कि इंडिया में अलायंस की इमरजेंस के बाद, उसके अस्तित्व में आने के बाद और जिस तरीके से सारी चीजें बन रही हैं, दिस इज ए डिसीजन टेकन बाय एफरेट गवर्नमेंट। ये डरी हुई सरकार का जो है निर्णय है और उनका कदम है और दे आर एप्रीहेंसिव ऑफ द डिफीट with anyway they will face whenever they will go into election, they are bound to face the defeat. लोग बेसिक सवालों पर वोट कर रहे हैं। लोग चाह रहे हैं महंगाई पर बात करो, भ्रष्टाचार पर बात करो, लोग बेरोजगारी पर बात करना चाहते हैं, सीमा के सवालों पर, किसानों की बात पर, मजदूरों के सवालों पर, ये सब चीजों पर नेशन का मूड बना हुआ है। तो अलायंस के अस्तित्व में आने के बाद जो है 28 लाख उनके जिस तरीके से मुंबई में बातचीत चली है, तो ये घबराहट में राज्य जो केंद्र सरकार है वो ये निर्णय ले रही है और ये किसी भी हालत में देश के हित के लिए नहीं लिया जा रहा है।
Absolutely. Sir, do continue to stay with us. What I want to ask you next is that simultaneous elections for the state assemblies and the Lok Sabha were the norm in India until 1967. The EC in 1983 had proposed to bring it back. So why the opposition from political parties?
This is, in fact, you cannot throw a surprise over all the state and state legislature. There are some states which have just formed their new legislature. How can you overrule the mandate of those people which these states have voted for? How can this government can do that? And anyway, if they want something to be done in that, so they take all the political parties into the confidence, and then a nation's mood should be prepared for this kind of decision, and not आप केवल इलेक्टोरल गेन्स के लिए या एक डिफीट को जो इमिनेंट दिखाई दे रही है उसको टालने के लिए इस तरीके का कदम उठाएं।
Now, do you think there would be diminished opportunities for regional parties as national parties will dominate the election narrative if there is a One Nation, One Poll?
I think in any way, ये कुछ भी कर ले, स्टेट्स में भी ये हारेंगे और ये लोकसभा के चुनाव में भी हारेंगे। आप पक्का मान करके चलिए 2024 anyway किसी भी रूप में जो है ये इनके लिए हार का वर्ष सिद्ध होने जा रहा है और इसीलिए they may likely prepone the election also. That is another plank behind this kind of decision which they are going to take. I think for that purpose they have called the parliament session.
Absolutely. Mr. Rawat, thank you so much for speaking to CNN News 18 and for giving us your perspective on this entire matter. With that, we're going to be crossing back over to CNN News 18's Vinay Deshpande in a short while from now. But essentially, those are the big questions being raised about whether or not it would be beneficial. We're crossing over to CNN News 18's Arnima now to get us more on this. Arnima, over to you.
One Nation, One Poll has been something that the government under Prime Minister Modi has been talking about for a long time. But looks like now they're giving some concrete shape to that thought. A committee is being constituted, we are told, by sources in the government. It could be chaired by former President of India, Ramnath Kovind. Earlier, this was, being proposed by the Law Commission. Law Commission was the one which was looking at the legal challenges to One Nation, One Poll. And there are a lot of constitutional challenges. How do you set the clock back? Because a lot of assembly elections happen, a few years down the line from Lok Sabha elections. So how will you suddenly dismiss those assemblies? What section of law will you invoke to ensure that their timeline matches the Lok Sabha timelines as well? So there are constitutional challenges, and I think to study that, government is setting up this committee.
So, Arima, if simultaneous polls are held, what exactly happens to states where there are pending elections?
So that's the challenge that the government is facing right now. For example, in December this year, there are 5 polls that are happening in states. Next year, around Lok Sabha elections, also there are assemblies which will go to polls a few months ahead or a few months later. But then there are 15 state assemblies which have a long gap, time difference between the Lok Sabha polls and their assembly elections. What do you do about those 15 assemblies? You can't really dismiss the government all of a sudden. You have to look at some constitutional provisions. If you have to have one nation, one poll, also how will you get it ratified? If this is a constitutional, bill that is brought in, you need ratification by the state assemblies as well. States which are ruled by the opposition, will they ratify it? How will you bring about that consensus? So these are huge challenges, constitutional and legal challenges as well. And I think that is why the government wants to study this issue afresh. Though there is a thought within the government at the top leadership that this would save the country as far as electioneering expenses are concerned.